Welcome back to another episode of Real Estate in Color. And today I'm so excited because I've got the KO lender, Kati O'Brian. Introduce yourself, Kati.
Thank you, Destiny. I really appreciate you having me on this podcast, and I'm very honored that you selected me
so excited
to be a guest star. So my name is Kati O'Brian. I go by the KO lender. I have been in lending now for 8 years, and I'm with HomeBuyer Mortgage as a senior loan officer. And I just really love lending and what it brings to, buyers, first-time home buyers, experienced home buyers. I love working with agents. I'm a people person.
You are.
So I just enjoy the relationship building and helping folks secure financing.
That's it. And I love how our relationship started because you took me on as a baby realtor. I think we worked on my second transaction.
Yes.
I've been licensed for 3 years, but you've been my go-to. And you answer all my questions and make things make sense to me. And so what we're going to do today, I thought it was fun. And just so you guys know, Kati does not know any of the questions that I am using. I wanted to debunk all of those myths that I have found in my time of being a real estate agent. People are afraid of. They're afraid, what if I can't do this or what if that? And it's just like, you are so capable of financing and getting into
Absolutely.
a home. And it may not be right now, but let's get you on the path to doing that. And
Yes.
so she is a person to debunk all of those myths. And hopefully this will give you a little bit more courage to just reach out and say, hey, Destiny, I think I'm ready to pull off the Band-Aid and get started. Okay, so we're going to debunk our first myth, okay? And this one's going to be around like credit and bankruptcy. And this is a question I think I get the most is, a lot of people believe that they can't buy a home because their credit isn't perfect. They don't have enough credit history or they've had something like a bankruptcy in their past. Is that actually true, or are there loan programs that can assist people in those situations?
Okay, so it is true in some regards. So specific loan products, each of them come with a set criteria for credit scores. And we call it like agency, so like FHA, VA, conventional, etc. Usually have a set. Now VA actually doesn't have a set minimum at all. But then you also have lenders, right? So you have the agency, but then you have lenders who each may have their set of credit score minimum requirements. Or they can operate like we do here at HomeBuyer, and we go directly based off of agency guidelines. So whatever the minimum credit score is, provided by FHA, then we're going to follow that. Now, we could get a lot deeper into that conversation because credit score, especially on the lower end, even if you meet, like let's say you go down to a 500, credit score, and VA can do that, and it is allowable. It doesn't mean that we're going to get an automatic approval in what we call the automatic underwriting system because it's set on a whole risk layer profile. It is reading every single layer in a borrower's profile to decide whether or not they could actually have the ability to repay a loan. Now that goes a lot deeper, and and that's our job, right, as loan officers to assess that situation and help people build where they need to, or put more money in the bank so you have reserves to offset your credit score. And that's how we work as loan officers, is to get in there and educate. So yes and no. But then also there are specific loan types that are called non-QM loans, which stands for non-qualifying mortgages. And what those do is like, bank statement loans or DSCR loans have, things like you don't have to come up with, you don't have to have income qualification. You're not qualifying based on that for a DSCR loan. So then there's portfolio products that come in. And a lot of those will, especially when it comes to like bankruptcy, you can get by with like a bankruptcy in recent years, provided you can provide a letter of explanation or things of that nature. So there's a lot of creative financing. That's probably what I love most about here at HomeBuyer is at other companies I've been able to sort of offer that, but it's really good here at HomeBuyer, and we have multiple different lenders and investors that we work with.
I like that. So would you say, one of the things I always tell buyers who are kind of on the fence about is it time to buy, hey, let's look at your big picture first.
Absolutely.
Let's get you in touch with a lender so that way we might be able to say, well, this is your credit score, but this is what other things that may help you to get qualified.
Yes.
And it's about finding that right program suitable for them.
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake that a lot of home buyers make, whether they're first-time home buyers or they haven't done it in 20 years, you know, whatever their scenario is, I think the biggest mistake they make is they just go, I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they hang it up, feel defeated, and the whole point of having a loan officer, and if your loan officer's not doing this, then you need to find the right matchup, is to educate you and pull in. I mean, I can't tell you how many credit reports that I've pulled in, and we're nowhere near close where we need to be, but I will spend the time to work with that borrower for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and whenever they get to where they need to be on their plan and we get to close a loan for them, it is the most rewarding closing. So you got to start somewhere.
You got to start somewhere.
You just got to start.
That Band-Aid. Yeah. All right, so we're going to debunk myth number 2.
Okay.
Down payment and closing costs. This is another one I get a lot. Like, I just don't have enough.
Right.
So one of the biggest things I hear from buyers is that they think they need 20% down and thousands saved up before they can even think about buying.
Sure.
Can you explain what options actually exist today to help buyers?
Yeah, absolutely. There are, again, lots of different products, lots of different loan types. Each of them come with a set minimum down payment requirement, or we have, you know, down payment assistance loans. Oftentimes for first-time home buyers, but we even have down payment assistance loans where you don't have to be a first-time home buyer. And so, you know, where I do think it's a good idea to like try and have a little bit set aside, whether it's for an earnest money deposit or an appraisal or a home inspection. You know, those are all great little things, but you don't have to have 20% down. I mean, conventional loan can go down as far as 3%. There are sometimes like specials that we can run or that our company does run where it's 1% down, or we've even had 0% down conventional. FHA goes down to 3.5%. VA obviously is 0% down. USDA is a 100% financing program. So there are lots of options, and you know, we talk often with our borrowers about, okay, let's say you have a couple thousand in the bank, but you're going FHA and you need $7,000 for your down payment. Well, do you have a family member that can gift you that, you know, those funds? And then we help educate them and walk them through that part. But yeah, there's lots of products out there where you literally don't have to put any money down. And then, as you know, we work together often on closing costs and going in with a strong offer and trying to get those covered, you know, for the buyer via the seller. So there's a lot of ways to work that. Again, it's all about creativity and finding, you know, the puzzle pieces that work to put it together. And
I think that's what I love working about you the most is I'm like, okay, this is the situation. How can we, like you said,
how can we maneuver these parts
to make this work? And sometimes it's, let's increase the list price a little.
Or, we have done that.
Yep, we've done that. We've gotten lending or assistance from family members for down payment. So there are different options. So that is a myth.
Absolutely.
You don't have to always have 20% down.
No, not even close.
Not even close.
Not even close.
All right. So this is one of our random questions we're going to throw out there for you. Okay. What's something buyers stress out about the most that you wish you knew, that you wish they knew is actually not that big of a deal when it comes to lending and obtaining a mortgage?
Something they stress out about. Honestly, it's probably that down payment piece. I get the same question all the time, is like, well, I just don't have any money, or I only have $10,000. And I'm like, girl, we could work with $10,000.
Yeah.
You know, I get so many. I mean, I've had borrowers close with literally $1,000 to their name, and been able to do it well. And so that, I would say that is the biggest stressor that most people who are interested in buying a home don't realize. So I think that question that we just went over is actually perfect for that. That is the most common. I would definitely say that.
Good. Oh, I'm glad we got to debunk that one. So you guys save that tax money that you're getting, put a little bit aside.
Amen.
And let's start working towards getting you into your home. All right. So next myth number 3. Renting versus owning. I hear this a lot. A lot of people believe renting is the more affordable option compared to owning a home. From a lender's perspective, how do monthly mortgage payments actually compare to rent in many cases?
Okay, so I'm trying to think where we should even start here, because that's a loaded question. Like, there's a lot that goes into that, right? And so first and foremost, my biggest response often to those buyers that I have that have that concern is, okay, but when you're investing in someone else's mortgage versus your own, you don't have an investment.
Right.
So that's usually my first go-to immediately is like, at least this is an investment for you. And usually there's going to be a return. Even in today's market, houses are still appreciating, right? We're seeing historically a 4% historical appreciation on homes. And so we actually have a tool here that we use called buy versus rent. And we're able to send out to a buyer who's interested, and they're kind of battle between the two and show them, okay, I know that rates are on the higher end right now.
Right.
But historically speaking, if you buy now versus wait a year, we can even do it at a 6-month point or a year point, then let me show you what you're missing out on. And usually it's anywhere from 10 to 50 grand in equity on a home. And then the irony is, like, let's say you're looking at a $300,000 home today, but you want to wait a year for rates to come down.
Right.
Let's say they come down a whole 1%. Right? And then we fast forward to that year. Well, now that home is worth $350. So it's Moxnix. Your mortgage payment is literally the same as it would have been had you bought the year prior. And so it doesn't really save or help to wait for rates to come down, or even housing prices. I mean, I feel like, yes, COVID got wild. Everything really appreciated at a very rapid pace. And yes, the market is, you would be able to speak to this more, but it's more stale right now. It's not necessarily like jumping, astronomically. And I think that sellers are getting the idea that, like, hey, we thought we wanted to list really high, but now we're going to have to drop, otherwise it's going to sit. And that may be true, but it still has appreciated. Like, it still is worth more than when they bought it. And so I think that speaks volumes when you look at historical and forecast appreciation, because that makes a big difference. So yeah, you can be stuck paying someone else's mortgage for many years to come, or you can invest in yourself.
Right.
And I think that's really important.
Well, I like the tool that you have. We'll have to utilize that sometime.
Yes.
But I also think it goes back into, the money that you're saving, and investing in yourself.
Absolutely.
So that way you can start building that portfolio for yourself. And, I tell first-time home buyers, you may get just a 2-bedroom, 2-bath
a starter
house to
home.
start off with. Just get the party started. That's why I say let's get the party started, and then a couple of years down the road, use that equity.
Absolutely. I mean, most first-time home buyers are in their home for 3 to 5 years on average. And so at that point, they're either selling it or they're retaining it as a rental.
Right.
And there are ways we could get in that conversation next podcast, maybe, is there are ways to utilize that rental income to offset the mortgage payment, and then when you go to buy another home, it's like it's not even there in your debt to income ratio. So, it's an investment. Invest in yourself.
Invest in yourself. I like that. So you did answer myth number 5. So we're going to skip 4 and go straight to 5 since we're already in the flow of that is, that primary residence and as an investment opportunity.
Yes.
Help debunk that, because I know a lot of people think if it's my primary residence, I can't use it as an investment property or vice versa.
Right.
Talk a little bit about that.
So you definitely can. We call it a departing residence. So when you're leaving your primary, purchasing a new primary, this old primary is now your investment property. There are a couple ways that we can work around that. And so if you've not, let's say you departed from it 2-3 years ago and you've been renting it out, and you also went and rented somewhere for 2 or 3 years. Well, in that case, we are going to need to get a Schedule E from your tax returns, the whole tax return, but the Schedule E specifies what your rental income is, and then we would have to utilize that to calculate what your rental income is, if there is any, because sometimes there's a loss when you're renting out a property. But if you're literally departing your primary, moving into a new primary, then all we have to do for that is usually we get a signed executed lease, both via the tenant and the landlord, and then we usually have to send out a property appraiser to that residence, the departing residence, and they do what's called a 1007, and what that does is it gives us the market rent for the area, and then as long as those match up, then we just offset the mortgage payment altogether.
Too easy.
And so essentially it's like it comes to zero, right? Like it doesn't even count against your debt to income. So not only the new primary residence, which we call your qualifying mortgage payment, is all that's being factored into your debt to income, not the departing residence. And you and I have done that with a handful of buyers.
We have. And I think we find that often here in this area because you have a lot of people
Sure.
who are wanting to get the rental income from a beach property.
Absolutely. I mean, you got VA people who are, wanting to get out of this house, move into a new house.
Absolutely.
We've done it with FHA borrowers where I had an FHA borrower who left their FHA home and then moved to a brand new build, and used a conventional loan for that. And he was able to use rental income to offset his FHA loan. So there's a lot of ways in order to do that.
Yeah, and I think it also ties into having such a good relationship with your lender so that you can call them. I mean, you've got people that I've worked with that are still calling you, hey, is it time to refinance?
Absolutely.
Can we do this? Okay, so speaking of VA, that is our myth number 4, our final myth that we're going to debunk is your VA loan eligibility. And this is something that I find working with a lot of new airmen here. They just really don't understand how their VA loan works.
Sure.
And so they think, I've worked with a lot of military families here on the Emerald Coast, and a common misconception is that veterans can only use their VA loan once. Can you explain that?
Very common misconception. No, you get to use your VA loan multiple times and in multiple ways in regards to entitlement, right? So first time use, then you have a VA funding fee of 2.3%. Second time or subsequent use, then you have a VA funding fee of 3.6%. Now that gets rolled onto your loan. So the VA charges what they call a funding fee, gets tacked onto your loan amount. This is if you're active duty or even no longer active duty, but you don't have disability.
Okay.
So if you have disability, 100% disability, really I think it's any percent of disability, you are exempt from the funding fee. So that doesn't even get factored in, but you have the ability to use your VA loan multiple times, and oftentimes you can use it at the same time. So for example, like we were just talking about, you have, a VA borrower who owns a primary. They've already used their entitlement once, and part of that entitlement is tied up in that first home. But they PCS out to Alabama, Tennessee, South Florida, somewhere else. They can actually retain that property and utilize it as an investment property. And then the new property, we will do a calculation for bonus entitlement and see how much they have left if they want to do 100% financing. Now, sometimes, if we get into the $500K, $600K price range, we get in those upper, higher scale price ranges, then they may have to bring a little bit of a down payment. And you and I actually had this exact situation, I think a few months back, where it was actually more beneficial for that veteran to utilize an FHA loan. So instead, because he leveled up on his house, he bought a beautiful home out in Santa Rosa Beach, and ended up the down payment that he would have had to use for his VA loan, subsequent use, was going to be much higher than what he used for his FHA loan. And so, again, education, options, a loan officer who will ask the right questions and put the puzzle pieces together. But no, you do not only have a one-time use. And then you have the ability also, like if you're selling and buying simultaneously, literally can be done on the same day. And if you got 2 closings back to back that are a domino effect, that entitlement gets restored from that initial VA loan, and that one's sold, entitlement is restored, and then boom, we use it again within a few hours. And so that can be done as well.
That can be done as well. And I know a lot of people who come here, they do decide to keep their properties and invest. One of the things I've recently even had asked is, I want to buy like a 4-plex with my VA eligibility. Explain that, how that works.
So you have to VA requires you to take it on as a primary residence.
Correct.
You are signing documentation that says I'm going to live here, right? So when you can buy multi-unit, but you have to live in one of them. But the beauty is you can even utilize, if you have, like, let's say they've already got tenants and the other 3 units, you can utilize that in order to offset part of that mortgage payment. So those become, lucrative if you got a VA guy or girl who's an investor and they really want to build up their portfolio in the long run. But you do have to take occupancy on one of those. Now the VA, there's also a little bit, I'm going to debunk a myth here, roll it right in.
Please do.
The VA, they have to move in right away. It's got to be same day. No, it doesn't. You have 60 days in order to be able to move in to a VA property.
Okay. I like that. I didn't know that.
Or a spouse can even take it on. So like, let's say you're in Department of Defense and you work up in Washington, D.C., but your wife and your kids are going to go ahead and move down to Florida and move into your primary home while you finish out your contract there. You can do that. as long as your spouse or your family members come and take occupancy.
I love it.
Yeah.
See, I learned something new in our podcast today. You want to do our lightning round, or do you want another off-topic question? You get to pick.
Let's go off topic.
Okay.
And then we'll go lightning.
Okay. So our next off-topic question is, if you win the lottery tomorrow, are you buying a beach house, a ranch somewhere with land, or disappearing to an island?
Oh, man. The first one, I was like, nope,
No
good on
beach
that. I mean, I love the beach. Don't get me wrong, born and raised here. But ranch sounds amazing. How do you decide between a ranch and an island, Destiny?
I know.
That is a really tough one.
It is.
If it was my husband, he would say we're going to the island, 100%.
Really?
We're living off the island. No one's going to know where we're at. I love land animals, and you can kind of do the same thing there too, right? You can totally go off grid on a ranch. So I'm going to go with ranch.
Okay.
And the only reason I say that is because, like, I love wide open spaces. Call me a Dixie chick.
You are, though.
I love wide open spaces in the country and things like that. And, you know, I've kind of lived in paradise almost my entire life, other than when I went to college. So, you know, island vibe, I love to visit. But if I'm going full Monty, I think we're going ranch.
Going to the ranch.
Yeah.
All right. Full blown Yellowstone. I love it.
Give me my cowgirl hat and a horse, and I am happy.
So would you say you're a Beth?
My husband would say so.
I love her. Okay, let's do the lightning round. Okay. So there's 5 of them. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Okay. Beach or mountains?
Mountains.
Mountains. We already answered that.
Yep.
Early bird or night owl?
Night owl.
Okay.
All day.
Text or phone call?
Depends on the criteria.
Okay.
If it's short and sweet and we don't need to have a full conversation, shoot me a text message. But if we got to talk about it, go ahead and give me a call.
Okay. And then your dream vacation?
Oh, man. I would love to go backpacking in Europe.
Really?
People probably don't know this a lot about me, but I'm a huge history buff.
Would never have guessed that.
I want to hit Greece, Rome, France, Germany. Give me all the history. Give me all of the, you know, the beauty and the culture. I love culture. So yeah, I really want to go backpacking across Europe.
I learned something new about you.
Yes.
All right, so we've got a closing question.
Okay.
So we can wrap up our Debunking the Myths podcast. If someone listening today thinks buying a home might actually be possible for them after hearing this episode, what is the very first step they should take?
Give me a call. So I think what sets me aside from a lot of loan officers is you'll get loan officers who will answer the phone, but immediately they're going to say, fill out this loan application, send me an email, right? I'm different. I feel like I'm different. I like to have a phone conversation with my potential borrower. I want to be able to build a rapport with you, build a relationship with you. And sometimes during that conversation, I actually am able to walk you through somewhere like a game plan before it's even time to fill out the loan app, right? I don't want to waste your time and get your hopes up and make you feel like, you know, like let's say you just started at a brand new job. It's not salary, it's totally hourly. And I know we're going to need a little bit of time.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you that. And so I would say, you know, that first step is at least make the phone call. I mean, it doesn't hurt to have a conversation, right? And I will give you a really good analogy that I actually learned from my first ever boss who did my first closing and my home. And he would put it like this. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. You're going to financially strip for me.
Oh.
You're going to take off the shirt, and there might be a little bit of cellulite here or a little bit of cellulite there. My job is to get you in shape, right? I'm going to be your advisor, your confidant. The things that you tell me is nowhere else. I'm not going to share your information with anyone, not even your realtor. Am I going to share your financial seemingly flaws, right? So then once we work you out and get you in shape, then we go to competition, right? That's when I would say step in the ring, right? So like I'm going to be your trainer, if you will. And I loved that analogy because it was, you know, it was very freeing. And I've actually used it with quite a few borrowers, and they're like, that makes a lot of sense, right? Like, I'm not perfect. No one is. I'm a loan officer, and my credit has been in the tank before. that's human, right? We are all human.
Life
and so,
happens.
our job is not to judge. We are here to be there for you and support you and build a game plan.
And I love that you do that with at least the clients that I know I've worked with you, because they feel so comfortable to then come back to you.
Yeah.
Say, hey, I got a question. Or is it okay if I call Katie? Yes, you don't have to have my permission to call Katie. Call her, please.
Absolutely.
But you have their best interest at heart versus trying to shove them into a product that they may not be ready for.
Oh my gosh, yes. No, I mean, that is big for me is, that's how I became a mortgage loan officer. It's a long story, so we'll have to save that for another day. But ultimately, I care very much so about people. And when I went through my first process, I literally sat down and was like, I can do that, and I can do it better, and I want to take care of people. Right. And so I want to give them the best experience that they can have. So
they come back to you.
Yeah.
So how can somebody contact you if they are ready to kind of strip for you?
Show me the cellulite.
Show you the cellulite.
Yes, so you can reach out to me at 850-585-8440. That is my direct cell phone. I do work weekends and nights.
And on the baseball field.
Yes, I am known to take a loan application with my earpiece in. So, yes, that is the best way. Reach out, and then, Destiny can give you my email if you prefer to start that way. But that's the best way. Give me a call.
Give her a call. Katie, thank you so much for doing this with me.
So
you were
welcome.
my first interview, and I'm so glad that we got to debunk some myths. So don't be afraid. Let's pull off the Band-Aid. Let's strip a little bit.
Yeah.
And get you into your first home or maybe your investment property. Or if you guys just have questions, please give us a call. Thank you so much, Katie.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Destiny. Oops.
Or I'm a big on, like, absolutely. Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Right.